Star Wars Outlaws has gone gold and is less than 2 months away from dropping, and I, for one, am ready and waiting. I've been a Star Wars fan since I was a wee little lad, and I'm going to remain one until they put me in a box in the ground. And Star Wars Outlaws is the latest in a long line of Star Wars video games that I will absolutely be smashing the buttons through and having a great time while doing so. IGN just dropped a new IGN First video talking about the open galaxy aspect of the game, which I think is interesting that they talk about because I kind of felt like Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor were kind of open world. You know, they had planets that you could go explore. I think the only difference there and here is that you're also going to be getting a ship at Star Wars Outlaws. But I'm looking forward to everything they've got laid out. We're going to dive into this video here over at IGN, give it a reaction, take a peek at it, see what we could see, if there's anything new that we haven't seen before. So without further ado,
making games is really tough. Making open world games is really, really tough. And making Star Wars open world games is the next level of difficulty.
Julian Garrity, creative
on.
director at Massive Entertainment, is up for a challenge. For the first time ever, we're getting a fully open-world Star Wars video game. It's been a long time coming, but after back-to-back successes with both The Division and The Division 2, Garrity was in the mood to take a risk.
This is maybe just my approach, but
I think
even if
that's
it's
something
scary,
a lot of people
you've got to do it.
confuse
You've got to lean
here
into it.
is they
What's
keep
the
saying it's an
downside to
Ubisoft
pitching
game.
a
Well,
Star Wars
Ubisoft
game
is the
at
publisher,
Lucasfilm Games
but
in George
they're the
Lucas's
ones who
old
built the
office. I mean,
game,
what's the
and
downside
The
to that?
Division
If
is
it
a
doesn't
lot
work, it
different than
doesn't work, but you
Assassin's
still
Creed
have that
and the other
experience.
games they've
Fast
built.
forward several years after that meeting, and Massive Entertainment is less than 2 months away from releasing Star Wars Outlaws, a fully realised version of the original pitch described in that office.
that looks
An
awesome.
open world of dual ambitions, maintain the cinematic legacy of the films, and create immersive scoundrel gameplay that grants you the freedom of the galaxy.
I think it's taken this long to get an open world Star Wars game because of how, excuse the pun, massive it is to build a game like this. There are only so many studios in the world who build games of this scale. The door is then open for Massive to come to us and say, this is what we're interested in doing. This is the type of game design and gameplay we want. This is what we're thinking about in terms of an archetype. Where does that fit?
It's the outlaw player fantasy, and it's open world. Those were the two main pillars that we pitched. Why open world? Because the outlaw fantasy really needs that.
And I know there's the similarities with drawn, but Red Dead Redemption 2,
DNA,
I see similarities here with the wanted system and everything. I can't
a lot of
wait.
experience doing, what do we think we're good at? And this fantasy, the scoundrel in Star Wars, begs for freedom.
Massive was fully confident in its abilities to create engaging open worlds. The Division offered a bullet-filled action playground, while last year's Avatar Frontiers of Pandora displayed an ability to work well within a Disney license by building a near-unmatched visual paradise. But Star Wars was the new challenge that this team yearned for. Of course, deciding what kind of experience would live inside a Star Wars open world was the first thing that had to be decided.
We took a step back, of course, and thought, okay, Star Wars open world, what an opportunity. What does that naturally want to be? And it wants to be the full scale from the very small to the very big, meaning sitting inside a cantina, playing sabacc, being able to walk through the street, jump on your speeder, drive across the planet's surface, park literally your bike in your own ship, take off into space seamlessly.
That vision of full scale helped secure a green light from Star Wars custodians, but getting Lucasfilm's blessing was just the key in the ignition. Translating the cinematic spectacle of the original Star Wars movie trilogy into an open world, set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, two of the most iconic films of all time, was the actual challenge. One that Massive set out to address in every aspect of Outlaws, from the way it looks and sounds to the type of action-adventure gameplay it supplies.
Look at that.
The sort of cinematic ambition that we had was in presentation. So
I'm a big fan of cinematic storytelling.
Necessarily. What I care the most
about, it's like my favorite type of gaming,
part,
man.
Right? What we did was take a lot of inspiration from the original trilogy, but with today's technology. So very similar to what Rogue One did. What its aim was to do was to replicate a lot of the
challenges,
sort of filmic effects of those lenses of the 1970s. So you'll see barrel distortion on the sides, vignetting, film grain, chromatic aberration, and of course all wrapped up in an ultra widescreen presentation.
It's a key point for open world games at large, but I think very much for Star Wars as well. And not always scale in that it needs to be grand, but it needs to be conscious. The scale of Tatooine needs and should and does in our game feel very different. It breeds open sand dunes, long sight lines.
God, that looks good.
It's easy to pick up any little anomaly on the horizon, and it might be an opportunity for you compared to the dense streets of Kijimi.
Scale is something written into the very DNA of Star Wars, whether seen on the big or small screen. Greg Fraser, Rogue One's director of photography, recently told IGN that
if you watch any Star Wars film, that's what it's all about. It's, knowing how big a human is going into this massive Millennium Falcon. How big the Millennium Falcon is going to this massive Death Star. It's scale upon scale upon scale.
It's a philosophy Garrity and the team at Massive took into Outlaws when crafting the introduction to its open world.
One of our intentions was, for the beginning of the game, to make it feel very small and then bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So,
well, the movies have always done
game,
that too,
you start
so that's
off
really
in
cool.
one room, and it's claustrophobic, and it's meant to make you feel
and then they check you out
a
of the
little bit
streets,
trapped.
and then
you open up, and it's city streets, but it's contained. And then some narrative stuff, and you steal a ship, and you explode into the galaxy, and all of a sudden, you crash land on this planet, which is wide open world.
Big open
that
space.
sort of sense of everything growing.
By the way, her
for you, not just the scale
mocap
of the,
and voice
the
actress has
galaxy,
been
but
really
the
active
scale
on
of
Twitter
the
and X and
possibilities
doing
for
some
you
really
as a
fun
character,
stuff.
as a rookie outlaw.
K-Vess, the underworld's favorite new scoundrel.
Outlaws campaign tells the tale of K-Vess, a young scoundrel looking to build a team from across the stars in order to pull off one big space heist and remove the death mark placed on her by the Zerek Besh crime syndicate. It's the basis of a story that evokes many other adventures from across both games and film.
I love Mass Effect 2. It was is one of my favorite games.
I love the fact
think
they've got Mass Effect 2 in
so
here.
many influences, everything from Ocean's 11, Ocean's 8 to Star Wars itself, the previous films. Like, that heist feeling was always kind of in the fabric, to just tonally the films of Kurosawa, those original influences to George Lucas.
Knowing what sort of story you want to tell is one thing. Telling an engaging story in an open world setting is another task altogether, and one that Kavari is well aware of, having written for Far Cry 4, 5 and 6, as well as The Division.
It's one of the things you always have to keep in mind is, how are we going to weave a narrative and an open world together so that we're telling the story but also giving you the freedom to sort of go wherever you
I like the challenge that there was something to keep her little pet happy.
On Outlaws, which was, there was Kay's journey. We called them sort of lighthouses. There were key points that we knew we want her to hit these, and then that makes her story kind of part of the wider Star Wars narrative. But between those moments, we knew early on that if you got distracted by curiosity, the world had to react to that. It had to
grapple hook,
expect
baby,
that the player is going to go off the beaten path.
The things that lie off the beaten path
Shield
are built
cannon.
in accordance to something Massive refers to as the 3-second rule, where within a few blinks of an eye, you can instantly understand the nature of a location or character and the story behind them.
Before you even put life in them, they need to visually tell a story about what kind of place it is.
Look
what's
at the hangar
happened in
bay.
the past,
Oh
what type
God,
of
this game is
life and
visually,
events have taken place
this
in
is
them. So
everything
they
I
get
want
that
from a Star Wars game. And
lived
it's set
in
during the
feeling,
Empire
that
Strikes
lived
Back era,
in
which is like my favorite
relatable,
of all time.
substantial feel. I think is a hallmark of any good open world, but also very Star Wars.
Star Wars aesthetic has always been rooted in the idea of the used future, where everything from the largest spaceships to the tiniest droids have that instantly recognizable layer of grime. Those small details build up into authentic, cool and bespoke spaces, something Massive has always managed to build into its open worlds. The Division and its sequel are packed full of memorable levels ranging from New York landmarks to Washington DC museums, and that philosophy is being transferred to Outlaws' many planets. Its main missions promise to take us to iconic locations such as Imperial bases and Jabba's palace.
Nice.
We lean into the virtual tourism aspect of, hey, what is the distance between the moisture farms and Mos Eisley and the cantina? There is a linear roller coaster story golden path, if you will. And around that, of course, there's the open world.
That's the dream I know I had as a kid. That is what I've always wanted from a Star Wars game, is that, when I'm on a journey, when I'm entering into a quest, it might start on foot They might start navigating a High Republic cruiser that's crashed, but I want to be able to jump into my speeder and blast off, hop into the Trailblazer, take off into space, maybe land in a space station and meet some characters that factor into my quest or journey along the way. And so that sort of connective tissue of planet or moon to space was crucial, because that's kind of the fantasy that I think players are hoping for.
That fantasy and freedom is evidently at the core of Outlaws. And while all 5 planets and moons won't be instantly available to hyperdrive between, Garrity claims it won't be long into Kay's journey until the galaxy opens up.
There's a very structured intro that leads you to crash land on Tashara, which is a moon that we created with Lucasfilm Games. And once you finish the sort of linear narrative on Tashara, the other planets open up. And there it becomes completely non-linear, and you can choose to tackle those in any order you want.
A galaxy of exploration.
Exploration of these worlds is highly encouraged, with maps that are not, at least initially, flooded with icons and points of interest, because you're seeing these places from a fresh perspective.
Kay, as a character, hasn't seen the galaxy. So the first time Kay comes to Tashara is the first time you come to Tashara. And it's not an unknown, uncharted place. So you'll have a map of where you can see there's mountains over there and stuff. But discovery is what gives you more information.
So POIs through exploration.
You're going to have to go to a cantina, and you can eavesdrop, pick up on some conversations that will lead you to another location that reveals a location within the open world that you have to get on your speeder to go and find. There will be a fog of war that you'll be able to clear up, and that's really where your curiosity will open things up even more.
Each of Outlaws' worlds vary in size. Tashara, Massive's newly created moon, is around the same size as the jungle planet of Akiva, but a little smaller than the vast desert of Tatooine.
It was less about how big, but more about how long in terms of traversal. With the speeder, it would be 4 or 5 minutes non-stop, which doesn't sound like a lot, but once you're committed, it's a fairly large amount. You're always going to be distracted. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was one of the games that we were looking at while creating this, you have different zones, so it's 2 or 3 of those together.
And that doesn't even take into account the vast areas of space that surround each planet and serve as entirely different areas of orbital exploration and opportunity.
I feel like
we'll
this right here is going to be one of the areas where people feel disappointed
later on in this
they're thinking huge open space, and in reality it's just the space around the 5 planets, so it's a limited space in space.
In terms of mission design, we've seen action ranging from stealth infiltrations, frantic dogfights, high-speed chases, and intense blaster battles, with some quests even evolving to include all these elements at different stages. Star Wars Outlaws is thus perhaps better thought of as a single-player narrative action-adventure in the wrappings of an open world, something more akin to Marvel's Spider-Man than dense RPGs like The Witcher or Ubisoft's recent Assassin's Creed games. Its mixture of popcorn action and blockbuster narrative ambition is a departure from Massive's gear-based experience on The Division. It's a new chapter in the continued evolution of a studio that started life as a real-time strategy developer.
I think if you look at the evolution of open world between Division 1 and Division 2, there's a life, a dynamism, a systemic quality to Division 2 that we didn't have in Division 1.
I love Division 2. I thought it was a great game. I think I played it for like 6 months.
I'm talking about pure gameplay experience, single player or cooperative. That was very, very important to us to have as a living, breathing element that engages players while they're playing Outlaws.
It's an evolution of what Massive has been doing in their games for years now, keeping worlds feeling bustling and alive even when set against post-apocalyptic backdrops or in the midst of galactic wars.
We, in both Division games, but especially in the second one, developed what we call living world systems. So same thing here. We have systems that make sure that the world is always alive with movement, traffic, speeders zipping around, the Empire patrolling, the syndicates have footholds out there, sometimes more substantial events happen. And it's really up to you if you want to engage or not.
Perhaps Outlaws' most interesting method of breathing life into its open world is its approach to character progression. There's no leveling up or incremental stat boost to drop experience points into. Instead, Kay's ability and equipment are linked to experts, people you'll meet across the galaxy who'll grant you upgrades in exchange for work.
I heard you're the best shot on the planet.
Oh, and you want to be second best.
They are full-on characters. You don't know exactly who they are, what exactly they have to offer.
God, that
you,
reminds me of Red Dead
how to
Redemption
reach
2
them
so much.
from the very beginning. So there's
The
this
wanted
journey of
system
discovery
they've
here as
promoted
well.
too.
Intel, clues. Okay, I think there's a guy or gal or something that can do good things to my speeder here. Meaning these are really strong incentives for you to move around and journey through the world and expose yourself to other fun things on the way. And once you reach them, there's a character there to interact with and an adventure to go on, because they want instantly just, oh, here you go.
Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand.
Right? And then they essentially open up a little regional progression for you where the nature of unlocking those things is also very tangible.
For example, after finding a Jawa by sourcing their location from overheard intel at a cantina, you can complete a mission for them in order to gain a new skill. In this case, it's to venture into a dead Sarlacc to find a pristine tooth from its second mouth, which you can then exchange for a laser turret for Kay's starship, the Trailblazer. It's a smart way of blending gameplay progression with narrative befitting of the Star Wars criminal underbelly.
Love it.
You can go on a journey with a character such as an expert who is going to teach Kay a new skill, give her a new upgrade, to her blaster. That skill, that upgrade definitely ties into Kay pulling off the heist, but it's also very much its own journey, which is in the Star Wars tradition as well.
Another system aiming to marry gameplay with narrative is how Outlaws tracks Kay's reputation with each of the criminal syndicates.
This is what I
Her
wanna hear
bond
more
with
about,
each of
for
the
sure.
Hutts, Pikes, Crimson Dawn and Ashiga clan will strengthen
5
or weaken
factions?
depending on your choices in dialogue and mission objectives.
I'm gonna finish it. Shame.
Your reputation moving in the positive direction unlocks a lot of things for you. Everything from actual access to territory that they control, where you might have been able to sneak in otherwise, to landing pads in the open world. Discount with
That's
traders
cool.
affiliated with the syndicate.
Like
unique,
having
really
actual
exotic
landing
rewards,
pads that you can
etc.,
get to if
But
you unlock a certain
If
faction.
you
That's
really
gonna
get
be
on their
awesome.
bad side, that's another thing that you will feel dynamically in the game, because they actually send hit squads out.
Hit
for you in the open
squads.
world.
The reputation
like the
system
bounty
doesn't
hunters
just sit
in,
inside of missions
Red
though.
Dead Redemption 2.
Smaller opportunities regularly present themselves to boost your relationships among the syndicates. These might be smaller skirmishes where choosing to get involved can benefit you and the organisation you side with, and a strong bond may even help you out with the bigger threat looming over the galaxy.
This is getting bad.
Yeah, you better run. Run.
If you've, for whatever reason, ended up wanted and you're being chased by Empire and you cross paths with a syndicate that you have really good reputation with at the moment, they might join in and help you out.
Outlaws
cool.
directly follows the events of The Empire Strikes Back and sees the
Perfect.
Imperial forces at the peak of their powers. In gameplay terms, the Stormtroopers are basically like GTA's police and adopt a similar wanted system. Find yourself in a restricted area or accidentally fire a stray laser bullet at a Stormtrooper and you'll quickly find yourself in hot water. It's by no means a revolutionary system when it comes to open world design, but one that is made all the more exciting thanks to a lick of Imperial black and white paint.
It has a good range of escalation and de-escalation. It's really up to you if you want to try and hide or maybe bribe an Imperial officer that's a bit corrupt in a city somewhere, or try to jump to a different space region. But
Ooh,
you will
hacking
feel
a
it.
sta-
and
hacking a
let's just say there
satellite.
are Death Troopers for a reason.
Hang on.
Beyond the main missions, expert side missions, and the reputation system at the core of it all, many other snackable activities exist in Outlaws open world. These range from quick contracts such as smuggling and stealing, gambling in Sabak, to playing asteroid-filled arcade shooter games, and betting on Canto Bite's Favia racing.
Love it.
All of these activities bolster your ever-growing supply of credits, which can be used to purchase new customization and gear options for Kay, her pet-like alien companion Nyx, and the Trailblazer.
Nyx
And
is
yet,
awesome.
there's more. Emergent events frequently take place throughout the open world, whether on land or in space.
Every 2-3 minutes, there'll be something that's happening, whether it's an ambush or the Empire arresting some civilians or combat with some criminal syndicates, and it's up to you whether you want to engage or not.
So with so much to do in Star Wars Outlaws, how does Massive go about avoiding open world bloat? With a near endless galaxy of opportunity, there's the worry that things may spiral, feature creep sets in, and everything just
I got no
gets
problem with
too
bloat.
big.
I love
The studio
Assassin's
had a
Creed
clear
Odyssey,
plan from the
Valhalla.
start though,
Those games
leading
are
with
awesome.
variety over size,
Red Dead
quality
Redemption
over
2.
quantity,
Give me the
if
bloat,
you will.
baby.
We
I
don't
like
want
big,
things
big,
to
big
be
games.
just big for big sake. We need it to be contained, always fun, always proposing different activities.
It's about calibrating size to substance. When you see something that breaks pattern, that stands out for whatever reason, and you go there and look, there's something there to do, and that repeats frequently enough, and that the quests, the bespoke kind of content of the game makes use of it, so that it doesn't feel like a separate experience, but it's all one.
Of course, no matter how much there will be to do in Outlaws, one thing that can be expected is a healthy helping of nods to the larger Star Wars galaxy.
Love
Lando is set to make an appearance, and we've already seen a glimpse of Han Solo and Carbonite, but it sounds like they might just be the tip of the iceberg.
There's Easter eggs, there's characters that you'll meet along the way across the main quest.
Guys,
and
I can't
across,
wait.
Whether it's the experts,
I cannot
or, the
overstate
wider
my
stories you're
excitement
gonna
for this
stumble
game.
across. August 30th is a really great date. I recommend bookmarking it in your calendar.
I still don't know if I want to do
August
this on the
30
PS5
is
or the
right around
Xbox
the
Series
corner.
X.
A short wait for many players for whom an open world game set in a galaxy far, far away has been a long-held dream. I could feel a similar passion for Star Wars coming out of each person I spoke to at Massive.
Probably the Xbox,
and for them,
'cause,
I can't help but get the sense that
I like the
dream
feel
is
of
a
the
shared
controller a
one.
little bit more.
Making open world games is tough, and bringing open world to Star Wars may well bring an extra level of difficulty. But for Garrity and the team, it's been a challenge worth taking on.
I'm not as young as I used to be, and I'm getting to that point where I think I can count the number of games I can do till I'm put out to pasture on one hand. And it becomes more and more important to me to choose what I do, because it's really important for me to do quality work with people that I love working with. And Star Wars is definitely bucket list.
Yeah, it's definitely bucket list, dude, for sure.
Anywhere we want.
We'll have more exclusive looks at Star Wars Outlaws for you throughout July, and for everything else, stick with IGN.
Well, we will be tuning in. We watched a bunch of IGN firsts when they were doing the Dragon's Dogma 2 footage, and I was very pleased with everything we saw there, so expect to see me covering more here as they go through Vix's journeys. Or not Nyx's journey, Kay's journey with Nyx. Like I said, I'm super excited for this. I will be playing the absolute snot out of this. We'll be streaming daily here and on Twitch, as we always do, around 11 a.m. Central. And up until that point, we get a lot of other games in the chamber. So hopefully we're going to see you along for all of those things that we're doing. Don't forget the Discord, the Patreon, and we'll be covering Star Wars Outlaws more and more as it gets closer to launch. So until the next time, everybody, stay safe. May the Force be with you.